eating healthy is so important, and it really makes a big difference in your life.
Today's class this month is kind of a focus or awareness for bladder cancer and sarcoma. Two relatively rare cancers. There's only about 200,000 cases per year or less. Neither of which has a strong connection to diet or lifestyle as far as one specific thing that does or does not increase your risk or can reduce your risk. So general cancer prevention principles would apply. Very heavily plant-based, which you can see we have a lot of color here. We're definitely emphasizing beta carotene in the sweet potato recipe or butternut squash as we're using lycopene in the tomatoes. So if you're not familiar with what sarcoma is, it's a cancer that can be in your bones, in your fat or muscle tissue. And then bladder cancer is obviously arising in your bladder. So for both of these, the bigger issue that we look at is managing side effects from treatment. So fatigue, maybe stomach upset, keeping your weight up, keeping your energy up from eating really well. So both these recipes are heavily plant-based. I don't believe either one has protein in there, but if you were going through treatment and needed extra protein, you could easily add some to either of these recipes. So I'm going to go ahead and let Chef Zoe introduce the recipes and ingredients, and if you guys have any nutrition questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Julie. So, as a matter of fact, today we have, because we want something healthy, but we want something super simple, right? We want simplicity in the kitchen. And so, you're going to come across some of the ingredients that if you do not have, you can absolutely accommodate with something else. And I'm going to tell you what I did for the first recipe, which is my sweet potato and spinach quesadillas. If you like butternut squash, then you're going to love this one because it always happens that you think, I have sweet potatoes. It's such a common ingredient, and I should have it in the fridge or somewhere in the kitchen. And then you end up knowing that you don't have it.
Yeah, it's not there.
So, but then you have butternut squash, which I think, I made this before, and I think this ingredient really, really works for this recipe. So butternut squash is what we're going to use today, but of course, you can follow the recipe and the ingredients according to what you have in front of you. So for this recipe, and I'm going to tell you what I did with, when I did the directions of the recipe, instead of putting the sweet potatoes in the microwave, which is the easiest way to do this, you can absolutely do that, but I just had some steamed butternut squash that I had some leftover, or you can even roast it. And since I have that as leftover, I went ahead and utilize that. So for this recipe, for the sweet potato / butternut squash potatoes instead, quesadillas and spinach, we're using 2 medium sweet potatoes, 1 cup of red wine vinegar. Now for the red wine vinegar, of course, you can absolutely use apple cider vinegar because most of the time we have this more than the red wine vinegar at home. So sugar, it is necessary if you're using vinegar because you have to balance up the flavors and the acidity in the vinegar, right? If you don't want to do sugar, you can absolutely just do a little bit of vinegar. Instead of doing 1 cup, you can absolutely do like 1/4 cup, and you can do the rest of water, which I have done before, and just put like 1 little teaspoon of sugar instead of 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon, because that's not going to be a big amount that you're adding to the recipe. 4 black peppercorns, that's really going to give a really good flavor to the onions. 1 large red onion. Of course, you can do yellow onions as well, but the red onions are going to work really nicely with this because they're going to get really nice and sweet. Kosher salt, of course, black pepper. For the whole wheat tortillas, we are not using whole wheat. And instead, I had some spinach, so I'm going to utilize what I have available, right? So we're doing spinach, and of course, we're doing baby spinach. If you have a spinach tortilla and you don't have spinach, then just go ahead and do the tortilla instead of doing both. And of course, we need some kind of cheese that is going to melt nicely for the quesadilla, so we're utilizing mozzarella and a little bit of olive oil because we're going to saute our zucchini and onions. So, or baby spinach. Are we ready to start this recipe?
We're ready.
This is a really fun recipe because you can accommodate this recipe with other ingredients, like you were mentioning, protein. Absolutely, chicken, like leftover chicken, will be wonderful for this. Even I was thinking when I put salmon in the oven and I have some leftover, I kind of like just shred it and have some in a little container in the fridge, and you can absolutely do salmon for good protein source. So I'm gonna move this hot pan.
And you'll notice that the protein content on this recipe, even without meat, comes out to about 14 grams. Because you can get a surprising amount between the whole wheat tortilla, if you're using that, and the cheese. So 14 grams is not bad for a meal. It's not quite enough if you're really looking to maintain or build muscle. What the research shows is that at least 20 grams per meal, and each meal is really the best for muscle synthesis. So if you were to have this plus something on the side, that'd be a way to up your protein intake. Even a little bit of chicken, so 1 ounce of chicken is 7 grams of protein. That would put you at that 20 gram mark. So it doesn't take a lot that you need to add in.
And so for the onions, because what we're gonna make is what we call it curtido, which is just onions with vinegar. You caramelize them or you cook them with a boiling vinegar, combination of vinegar with the sugar. We're gonna go ahead and get started with that. So I have a nice little small pot here, sauce pot. I'm gonna put my vinegar, my sugar, and some peppercorn, right? Make sure that you take the peppercorn out because you can easily break.
Would not be good.
Good. So in order for this to bring it to a boil, I'm gonna go ahead and cover it and let it just let it be really fast. We want to cook it really fast. So in the meantime, I have my pan over here, which I'm gonna add a little bit of oil because I want to do a quick saute of the zucchini. Now, if we don't have zucchini, which is kind of like a really common ingredient that we usually have at home, I'll always mention yellow squash will be good. Mushrooms will be a great option. What else can you think of?
I mean, I throw bell peppers into
Bell peppers,
quesadillas. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank.
Yes, some good broccoli or cauliflower that is nice and roasted, maybe.
Probably any vegetable that you have on hand, really.
Yes.
Get creative. You could probably throw it into this quesadilla.
And we have a lot of creative people here anyways. But I was going to mention, if you do not want to go through the work of making your onions like this, you can absolutely just caramelize your onions or add it to the other veggies and have all your veggies nice and caramelized instead of doing this and then that. But if you like the flavor of the vinegar, that's a great option for this quesadilla. So let's go ahead and saute some zucchini. Now, when I saute veggies, one of the things that I love doing that, even though it's not on the recipe, is add some minced garlic. It's going to give a really good flavor to the veggies. So zucchini, I'm going to do more than that. I love doing this. I love sauteing veggies. Okay, so zucchini goes in here. And the spinach, of course, I'm going to go ahead and cook this a little bit first because it takes longer, and then we're going to add some spinach to this. Now, if you like fresh spinach, you can just put it on the quesadilla fresh with that. It's going to work almost like a lettuce, right? Instead of doing sauteing it because the benefits are going to reduce a little bit if we cook the spinach.
Well, not so much with the method that you're using.
Okay.
That's kind of a debate, a pretty common debate in nutrition is, do we lose benefits when we're cooking? I think for the amount of time and the heat level that we're cooking them at, you wouldn't need to worry about that. Obviously, boiling, longer duration, extremely high heats, those can cause you to lose nutrients or damage some of the nutrients. But in general, just fruits and vegetables, I recommend doing some raw, some cooked. There are actually a couple of vegetables you get more benefit out of if they're cooked, like broccoli. If it's lightly steamed, it actually can help lower cholesterol more. And tomatoes, if they are cooked, your body is able to absorb more of the lycopene from them. So it's to your benefit to do a little bit of both to make sure you're really getting all the nutrients in.
I love the way this smells. And as I'm cooking the zucchini, I'm thinking corn, fresh corn from the cob will be a great option as well.
Oh, yeah.
So
That'd be
corn
great.
and zucchini will go really well together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, I already have my sweet potato that all I did was it was steamed, so I just put it in the microwave to get it nice and hot. And with I used a fork and I just kind of like press with the fork, and I made a really nice smooth mixture for this. I'm gonna move this over here. This is already,
Oh yeah, it's boiling.
I don't know if you guys can see it on the screen, but I know the recipe tells you once it's boiling, you can actually have a container with the onions and then pour it in here. But for whatever reason, I'm always afraid that I'm gonna break my glass unless you're doing something like this. But what I really, really like to do is turn it off and just put my onions in here instead.
Yeah.
And then close this, and it's already turned off, so we just gonna let the onions cook a little longer. If you like crispy onions, then you can rinse them really quickly later, or you can just, if you like them crispy, just go ahead and use them right away, right? I kind of like them a little crispy.
Me too. That vinegar was burning my nose. I had to back up. Yeah, the scent coming off of there. It's
Already?
getting me.
Okay, so that's cooking really nicely. And I'm going to go ahead and add some spinach. If they're not baby spinach, then just grab a little bit like this and with your hands kind of like break them like this. So you don't end up with something too big, right? So you don't have your gloves? I was going to say
I don't. I could help.
Yeah, you can do
Let me
this
get
fun
some.
part of the recipe.
That's like stress relief after a long day. Just tear out the
Yes.
spinach.
That would be a good thing for you.
It
That's
would-
small.
Small.
Does it work for you? I think that's
This
good.
should be good.
Whoa, this is fun. Okay, so that's smelling so wonderful.
It does smell good.
Does it smell good? Okay, so the spinach I'm going to leave over here because I probably used it for the second recipe, which is not, this ingredient is not on the recipe, but I think spinach goes so well with pastas. So that's going to be our second recipe. So this is looking good. Our pan over here is getting nice and hot. Before it gets really hot, I'm going to spray it a little bit with some cooking spray. Oops. Let's see if this is cooking spray and not something to clean the stove.
That would be
That would not be good.
not a good mistake.
This is our new product that we just got in the kitchen, so I want to make sure I'm using, yeah, it says check well. Okay, prep,
Yeah.
fry max. Yeah, this is oil. Imagine that. We're all going to be eating some of this quesadillas right now. Okay, so this is cooking really nice. And what I did, I measured my tortilla on this pan. It's not big enough for this. So this is a way of that I make my quesadillas just because it doesn't create a lot of mess on the pan. And what I do, I put all the toppings here and I fold it and I put it there because otherwise if you put another one on top, you're going to make a big mess to flip it since it's such a big tortilla, right? Now if it's a small tortilla, then you can probably flip it, but it gets a little messy.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Especially with that size, I would think.
Yeah. So I measured my pan and it was a little big. So all I'm going to do is cut maybe this and this right here. This is really going to help me flip it really nicely. So I'm going to leave it here for a minute because we want our zucchini to be really nice and caramelized. And not burnt, but caramelized. Look how nice it's
Getting
looking.
nice and brown. Yep.
Right? I give you this so you can help me with that.
I'm ready.
Okay, so what I was going to tell you about the zucchini, we already have some elements that are going to create a lot of moisture and pretty watery in the quesadilla, and you don't want to make a mess with the tortilla. So keep in mind, certain ingredients like zucchini is going to have a lot of water as well. So what I do, I use the firm part of the zucchini by cutting it like this. And so I get rid of the seeds. That's where you get a lot of water from. So I get rid of that. And I just use this nice firm part of the zucchini, right? And then you can cut it as small or big as you want, but I think the smaller the better, because you're not going to rip the tortilla. That's looking really nice.
It looks good.
Right? So I just wanted to show you what I do when I actually dice my zucchini or yellow squash or anything that is going to compromise the texture of the quesadilla. That's looking really nice.
Zoe, it looks like you hardly put any spinach in here. It's like
Right?
disappeared.
So you
It all
can
shrinks down to
right?
nothing.
So you can actually do a combination of fresh and cooked,
Mm-hmm.
right? So let's go ahead and get this baby nice and big
Okay.
now, okay? So, of course, you do want to add a little bit of salt and pepper. Not a lot, it's actually optional. So I have my butternut squash over here. And I always use the ice cream utensil just because all the quesadillas are going to be the same amount of ingredients, right? And you can do the same with this. So let me put this here. We're just going to spread it on one side. Let's go ahead and do this. So this is a good amount for one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that?
Yep.
Okay, so now we have some cheese over here. Mozzarella, low-fat mozzarella. And then I think we're good with that now. So let's go ahead and... Wow, I bet you're going to get home and make this today, huh, for dinner.
Certainly a different spin on quesadillas. I mean, the traditional quesadillas you're going to get out to eat are not exactly a healthy meal. They're loaded with cheese and more cheese and sour cream on the side. So this is just a lighter version. You get that same feel, but we've got totally different ingredients on the inside. So it's kind of nice.
And then if you want something like a dressing or something creamy to go with this, I would just put an avocado and cilantro in a good food processor and make creamy sauce with that. You don't have to, and put a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. So this is ready, and I'm going to show you what the onions are going to look like whenever you cook them. So beautiful too, right? So let's just put some because they're pretty intense in flavor. Now, when you make these onions, if you really want to make them, you can absolutely do garlic. You can do garlic with this. What else? Some fresh herbs like maybe rosemary to change the flavor a little bit. It's really totally up to you. So let's go ahead and put this over here. And you know what? I was putting the other one instead of this one. Yeah, so let's move this over here. Because we want to try this, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, of course, right? Okay, let's do this. So we're just gonna, you're gonna be in charge of the quesadilla. Is that okay? Flip it. You're gonna flip it.
Oh no, that is the one thing I don't do any flipping.
Remember the flipping?
Crepes.
Yes.
Yeah, she tried, and I
She
did
liked
not
me.
flip them.
Let me step back a little bit.
Not on camera. Not with an audience.
That's the point. People need to see what kind of mess it goes behind the scenes.
People need to see me
When
flip
you-
that thing right on me. Yeah.
In that case, I'm just gonna leave you alone right now, and we're just gonna let the quesadilla get really nice and crispy.
Okay, I'll
So
watch.
this is pretty much ready. We're just gonna make actually our quesadilla to whatever texture we're looking for, which I like mine really nice and crispy. And so I'm gonna have a nice little plate ready here, so we can just place it here and cut it. So the next recipe is gonna be the penne pasta, which of course you can utilize any pasta that you have in your pantry, but the only thing I do recommend is that we keep it pretty, it's a spaghetti, right?
Spaghetti, penne, you could do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as
any.
long as you keep it whole wheat, right? That's kind of like the thing that we wanna encourage everyone to do. If it's okay to eat pasta, portions are really important, but the thing is, if you eat whole wheat, it's not gonna be as bad as you do like a regular white.
Sure,
Pasta,
and so
right?
with the whole wheat, again, take a look at the nutrition facts on this recipe. You get 10 grams of fiber, which is quite a bit, and 18 grams of protein. So the whole wheat pasta contributes quite a bit to those numbers. You're going to get a lot more protein. There's even some higher protein pastas that I've seen. There's a lentil pasta. If you haven't tried it, it comes out to, I want to say, about 18 grams of protein just from the the pasta, and then it's high fiber. And I promise once you add a really good sauce to it, you can't tell a difference. So that's why we want you to do the whole grain, the whole wheat, experiment with some of the other options out there. It's just going to be a lot better for your blood sugar control.
Well, as a matter of fact, I don't know if when I was doing the vegan diet, I tried, well, I didn't try it, I made it, and just a little bit. My daughter really liked it. It's bean pasta, black bean pasta. And I made it almost like a bowl, in a bowl. I put a bunch of stuff like roasted corn, roasted zucchini, the pasta, some cherry tomatoes in the oven. It was a great, great pasta. So if you're really craving that kind of stuff like a pasta, there's a lot of tons of different options, in the supermarkets nowadays, right? Before we didn't used to have that. The spinach one is really good as well. So let's go ahead and move on to the next recipe, which is my penne pasta with a very simple sauce. So for the first thing we're gonna do, Julie, is we're gonna move this lid out of the way. It's really, really hot. And is this getting nice and hot? Yeah, it's getting nice and hot. So why don't you put a little bit of olive oil? Let's pretend you're cooking at home and you're gonna put the oil that you would put. And I can move this so everybody can see what you're gonna do.
This is pretty hot.
So,
ooh, it's already
drizzling?
A little bit.
Oh, we can put more because we're gonna put more onions.
Okay.
Yes. So kind of like keep in mind. I think that's good enough.
Good.
Well, we know she puts a lot of oil.
Oh well, I started out low.
No, I'm kidding. I'm encouraging you to do that. Okay, so onions go in here, and just keep in mind I'm putting like my amounts are not the same as the recipe you have in front of you. And then of course we have some good garlic in here. You want to put some garlic?
Sure.
I would put pretty good amount of garlic.
That much?
Yeah, I think more because this is gonna be for us to taste. Is
that good?
Yeah.
I like garlic, but I don't want to
more.
overdo it.
No, you can overdo it.
Okay.
Are you guys okay with the overdoing the garlic? Let's do it. Let's
Okay.
overdo it.
I'm doing another spoonful.
Yeah.
Okay. I heard it from you guys,
Yes.
straight from the audience.
Man, now it really smells like Italian food.
Oh,
in here,
yeah.
Right? French, Italian. Oh, it smells so wonderful. Okay. So, onions and garlic, of course. If you look at the recipe, we don't have spinach, but we're going to go ahead and do spinach.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Again, that whole bowlful would shrink down to almost nothing. So
Yes.
it's a great way to use up extra spinach if it's on the verge of, passing its prime. This would be a good recipe to use it up in.
Absolutely. Is this on? Because we want this to be on.
It should be on. Yep.
Okay. So.
And I put on the recipe too optional mushrooms. I know I like mushrooms in a recipe like this, but again, this is one of those recipes you could throw pretty much anything into it that you wanted to, I would think.
You wanted to, yeah. So more stuff is going to go in there in a minute. And this is really the way, when I'm craving spaghetti, the sauce can be pretty high in sodium and sugar if you buy it from the store. But why not make your own sauce, which is so simple. And another ingredient that you can add to make it really Italian is some fresh oregano or dry oregano. We're not doing that on this recipe, but you can absolutely do that. And then at the end, you can do fresh basil. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and put my cherry tomatoes. And I have made it with yellow cherry tomatoes before, and it is beautiful. The pasta looks really, really nice. You can do a combination of both separate, and then put the pasta almost like a flag. Serve it like that. So tomatoes go in here. Baby tomatoes are so friendly. They go with everything, right?
Friendly.
What I do so much with the, actually I roast them in the oven with a little bit of olive oil, and I have them ready in the fridge. So I just put them in my pastas, and I put them on top of some nice whole wheat bread in the mornings with the poached egg. So you can utilize them in so many different ways when you roast them, because you get a really nice sweet flavor. Even in the morning, you can just put them in the blender if they're roasted, add a little bit of honey, and utilize it as a jelly instead of doing other stuff.
Wow. That
For
sounds
like
good.
brunch and stuff,
Sure.
right? So let's go ahead and get this nice and minced. No, this ones are like they're gonna be fresh because we still have to cook them with the other ingredients. But you can absolutely roast them, and it's gonna change completely the flavor. It's gonna be really nice. I love roasted tomatoes. So this is gonna go here. Oh, it smells nice and refreshing. So fresh, right? Okay, so I'm gonna get some more. And the texture of the sauce, of course, the tomatoes, it is totally up to you. You like it really nice and smooth, then go ahead and leave it longer. But I like to feel some of the tomato. You can do kind of like not too smooth, but kind of like this texture that I don't know if you guys can see it on the screen. That is between, right?
It's a little chunky, but not big.
Not too much.
Solids.
Okay, so remember you can do zucchini if you wanted to, but if for a really super simple sauce, you can do garlic, onions. You don't have to do the spinach, and then put the tomatoes, add a little bit of oregano, and a pinch of salt and pepper, and let it be. And then one of the things that I like to do with a sauce like this is add a little bit of olive oil, and it's gonna make it really nice and silkier, much silkier. Silk.
Silky, yeah.
Yes. Okay, let me go ahead and get this started. And you know what, Julie, put this at a high.
This one? Okay.
Yeah, we want the tomatoes to cook a little bit. So I know that with this recipe, I was thinking your neighbors are going to appreciate the smell. Yes and no, because they're going to be like, man, I wish I could taste that. So this goes in here as well. And so we bring it to a boil. We want this to kind of like get really nice and intense in flavor. Salt and pepper, of course. And this is a great recipe for whenever you have leftover pasta. You make pasta and you have a lot of leftover. This is a great pasta to make something really nice and quick. Some salt. And of course, the salt is totally optional. I'm going to go ahead and move this way.
But I guarantee you'll have less sodium, even if you do add a lot less sodium than if you bought a tomato sauce at the store, because those are one of our big sources of sodium. Adds up surprisingly quick.
Yeah. So this is what I'm going to do, Julie. I want you to, as soon as it comes to a boil, then you pretty much are going to know what flavor you have.
Okay.
So don't taste it before you bring it to a boil, because the flavor is not it's not going to be the same. So you want to taste your sauce? Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to be the official taste tester.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
It's going to be hot. Let it cool.
We want to know from you if it's good or not.
That tastes good.
So at that point, you can accommodate.
I might do
seasoning.
some like fresh herbs. Yeah, like some herbs in there.
We're going to do some basil.
Basil,
but
that's
I don't
right.
like to kill my basil when it's nice and beautiful. I like to add it at the end so you can create layers of flavors. And at the end, we're going to get a really nice, much refreshing flavor.
But yeah, I think salt-wise, it tastes fine. You wouldn't want to add any more, then it might end up too high. But it tastes very fresh.
Yes.
It tastes a lot more fresh than a store-bought.
So our quesadilla is ready, of course. And this is a nice plate, isn't it?
It is a nice plate.
Well,
Very
I'm gonna put
rustic.
it like this. And you can just see how wonderful this looks. Look at this.
Oh yeah, it looks great.
Quesadillas can be you can make so many different ways with the ingredients. I mean, you name it. You can utilize so many different ingredients for this. And of course, I like to do something like cilantro or parsley. That sauce is looking so delicious. Doesn't need anything. What I'm going to do, I'm going to have you, I'm going to take a little bit of pasta away from here. I just wanted to showcase what we have. And I'm going to do it because I don't know if it's going to be too heavy for you to move it. So I'm going to.
And just in case you're wondering, this would be more than one. This would be a very big serving.
Yes.
That looks like one massive plate
Do
of
not
pasta.
attempt this at home.
Unless you're like Michael Phelps and you're training for the Olympics, then maybe he might be able to eat that much. But
Absolutely. I totally agree with you.
that is a big old plate. Huh? Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
racing a shark, then
If
you might need to carb load.
you need more than this for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if
Okay,
you could
let's
eat
move
enough.
this. And the sauce is ready to put here. Let's see how hot
Is it
this
hot?
is. Well, I'm gonna touch
Grab
this.
that.
This one had more contact with the.
Oh, with the heat, yeah.
Yeah. So are you ready? How awesome is this?
Like if you're going to like family style
Yeah.
Italian restaurant.
Let's put this over here. And now we can absolutely do two things that have to go really amazing with pasta, which is basil. And what else? You have to have it with pasta.
Basil.
Come on, I'll let you think.
Oregano? I do oregano with pasta.
Well, now, but
Cheese.
yes,
Cheese. Oh, I thought we were on the herb topic.
yes,
Of course, a little bit
cheese.
of Parmesan.
Now, you have to go easy on the cheese. I'm just doing this right now, but right?
Sure. Just
Okay.
it's just to bring out the other flavors. You don't
Okay.
want to just taste.
You don't want to
cheese.
overwhelm it with cheese.
I mean, I usually
Yeah,
do.
right.
But
And so you just put the basil on top, just like that. I do like small leaves of the basil, and then I kind of like do a little bit of julienne style, right? Just cut this right here. And you can smell, because you can actually get the essential oils, and it's gonna be much flavorful. Of course, you can do this. Oh, it smells so
Mhm.
good. Now, what I was, yeah, this is a basil. Now, what I was, no, for the basil, I like to leave it fresh, because you're creating layers of flavors and stuff like that. If you put it with the sauce, it's gonna become really black. So you wanna have kind of like your presentation, you want it to look beautiful. And so I utilize fresh herbs more for the end presentation than in. Now, if you're doing dry, of course you can put it into the sauce. Dry basil will be a great option to cook it with the sauce. But for presentation and flavor, I think I like it much better fresh like this. And remember, with the spinach, you can absolutely do some spinach like this, and it's gonna look really beautiful, right? Because then you let your family members or anybody that is going to join you on eating this pasta the choice of eating much healthier pasta with some fresh spinach, right? Like a healthier version of this. So it's going to look beautiful, right? So there you go. So this will what feed how many people?
Oh, a lot. I don't
Like
know
10?
how many cups of pasta is that.
Well, that's
I
kind
mean,
of
and
like
in general, pasta we don't want it to be kind of the main event. It should be almost more the side. If you had some protein you were pairing with this or the salad, or here we've kind of got our salad with it. So a cup of pasta is a pretty good amount for most people. Not too much above that, or you end up taking in just a lot of carbs.
What I do is I usually serve my stuff separately. Like I put more sauce and then I put a little bit of pasta and a lot of spinach. So that's
Yes.
kind of like the way you can do it as well, just to take away the craving of pastas, right? And then if you have a really good olive oil, of course you can just put some on top just like that. You don't have to, it's just optional, but olive oil is good for you anyways,
Very
right?
good for you.
Especially when you add it at the end and it's raw. You didn't cook it with the other stuff. You're still gonna get the like full benefits of the olive oil. So that's our second recipe. I don't know if there's any questions, but the onions, let me put them over here. You can actually, this is a clean plate, by the way. Just put some onions here. And you can serve it like that. People can just come and grab a quesadilla. I think this is a great option for like brunch, like Sundays, that you want to make something quick instead of buying something at a restaurant that sometimes, you know, you don't know how much oil they add to the recipes, how much sodium. So I think this is a great recipe if you're craving something delicious.